how technology is opening up services and markets, as well as entrepreneurship, and what is Cyprus's role in tech. Let us now welcome Michael Tyrimos, Managing Director, Capacitor Partners, who will moderate the next discussion on Digital Cyprus, our country's new technological frontier.
Over the past year, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the way the technology is being adopted and the way that organizations transform across the globe. The fourth industrial revolution has already started, and as part of it is also Cyprus. We have seen a wave of digital transformation taking over Cyprus over the past years, and today I'm joined by a panel of very select technology leaders who will join me in talking about what is happening in Cyprus and what is next. I will start with the category of digital transformation in the public and private sectors, and I will start with Mr. Kokkinos, Deputy Minister of Research, Innovation and Public Policy. Over the past years, we have seen significant leaps in public policy with the formation of a national strategy for machine learning, artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud-first policies. So I would like to see the government's position and your vision on our next steps as a country.
Thank you, Michali. First of all, congratulations. You managed, and this is not typical in a digital debate or discussion, to have a gender-balanced panelist.
I think it's a must. It's the least.
Congratulations. And this is a message to all of us.
Absolutely.
Digital transformation. All right. First of all, let's think. What is digital transformation? What is strategy? We need to break this down into very simple terms that every citizen has to understand. And for me, digital transformation is the ability to provide the best citizen service and businesses, because through the exploitation of technologies. But the technology must be the under-the-hood engine. What is important is that we need to concentrate on delivering citizen services that promote the competitiveness of our economy and the quality of life of our citizens. Dimitris, on the previous panel, made a very nice comment about, if I cannot submit an online application for a government service, what kind of digital society is that? So before we start talking about AI and machine learning and blockchain, we need to understand that the foundation of our government policy should be citizen-centric client service. The citizen is our client. The businesses is our client. I will come to AI and blockchain, etc. But as I said, these are nice tools under the hood, and it should remain as nice tools under the hood. What is important is to provide citizen services. And in this context, we need also to categorize what digital transformation entails. Is that in government services? Yes, it is. Is it digital fitness of the society and the business community? Yes, it is. Is it digital as an industry? Not only for a small country of the size of Cyprus, but Cyprus can be the digital hub and has developed a new economic model based on attracting foreign direct investments for digital companies to use Cyprus as their home base. This is important not just for financial and economic advantages. This is important for the cross-fertilization of our citizens and our professionals with an outward integrated way. And I will finish with AI and blockchain. Yes, AI and blockchain and machine learning and all these are on my agenda, but as I said, I have my strategy for that as a government and as a ministry. I have a very thorough understanding how to exploit blockchain and AI. And in fact, the blockchain we will submit a bill to the Parliament for approval so that we also have the legal framework for the AI. We just completed the strategy. It has been commissioned to KPMG for completion and will be presented to me next week, and then we will, once it is finalized, we will present it to the society. But as I said, this is not a goal on its own. It's just a means to arrive somewhere. Most important is to have not just, some people ask me, what is your ministry strategy on this, on that? It's not a matter of strategy, it's just a matter of delivery. You need to deliver the services. You need to make the citizen and the businesses feel that they are being served. So strategy is delivery, period.
Thank you very much for that. Very glad to hear that you're taking a citizen-centric approach and that you're utilizing such tools such as decentralized technologies and the AI to facilitate it, which brings also the question of this transformation and the horizontal interception of technology across the industry. According to this year's report from PwC on the global CEO survey, 83% of the corporate leaders in Cyprus said that they're planning to invest in digital transformation over the next few years and in the long term. Dr. Orphanidou, I would like you to comment on that and tell us your perspective on the digital transformation and generally this wave, how it's impacting the private sector.
Thank you. So it's interesting because the CEO survey has been happening for many years, and this is the first year that digital transformation is the top priority for CEOs globally in Europe and in Cyprus. And it's definitely a reaction to the different landscape, dealing with the pandemic, of how the business landscape and the workspace has changed because of the pandemic. But actually looking at the other top priorities in the CEO survey, in the CEO's agenda, that have to do with cost efficiencies, with investing in research and development, with investing in leadership and digital skills, and also with investing in promoting branding and advertising in a more effective way. All the top 5 or top 10 even priorities of CEOs can be enabled by digital transformation. So digital transformation can lead to cost efficiencies, can lead to better customer service, can lead to freeing up the time for people to develop different types of skills. But I think what is very important, and this is also a challenge and a potential pitfall, is that digital transformation, and I echo a little bit what Mr. Kokkinos said, it should not be viewed as the introduction of new tools in an organization. It should be viewed as a business transformation, and even more so a people transformation, which is enabled by technology. So we have stories of organizations that focused their digital transformation journey on bringing in new tools, digital tools, to continue doing what they have been doing all along with a more digital way. And this is a recipe for failure. Organizations have to align their business strategy with their digital strategy. So the digital strategy has to enable a business transformation, and they should approach the issue holistically by looking at their people, at their procedures, at their governance, and by building the right culture within the organizations. And I know culture has been mentioned many times today, but something very important is that because the pace of technological innovation is so fast, actually even giving the digital skills to people or training them on new tools is not good enough, because in 2 or 3 years there will be new, better tools. So I believe that a very important lever for organizations in terms of the culture they need to develop is more building a culture of agility and adaptability in their staff, so that they can keep learning and developing as technology progresses.
That is very insightful, and as you said, digital transformation starts with people. There was a research by the MIT on that, which they called as a technology fallacy, that everyone believes that digital transformation starts with technology, but the technology is actually the last part of it. Mr. Kokkinos also mentioned about the headquartering of different companies, technology companies that enhance this effort in our country. It's very interesting to note that in the recent Invest Cyprus Awards, and this was also echoed by Tech Island, they said that 7% of our company's GDP is actually attributed from these technologies companies that operate in Cyprus. Such a company is also Wargaming. So, Ms. Loucaidou, I would really like if you could share your insights. Firstly, of how is it to work and operate such a global company in Cyprus, knowing that you have a team of 300 people in 8 countries, and what is your view on the future of this model, establishing Cyprus as a technology tech hub?
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. For Wargaming, who is a foreign investor in Cyprus, in tech, I think we never had to go into digital transformation. We actually were digital right from the beginning. We're a gaming company. Everything happens online. Everyone is online. Everyone is anonymous as well. So currently, I'm managing a team of 300 people globally and remotely, really. So everyone from their homes. It's not easy. It's challenging. And I think that's where both government and education that are both interrelated to each other in Cyprus can help. The first thing on government is the incentives offered to these companies. There are a lot, but at the same time, there are income tax incentives for higher management, high earners, which attracts a lot of foreign talent into the country, which is good for us to learn, but at the same time, as young professionals, we also want to grow, which comes to education. How do we empower our young professionals that come from abroad or they went to university here to actually go into big tech companies and flourish within them? So I think education has a big part in this. Educate me on Python so I can understand what developers are doing, but educate me on leading and understanding different cultures. Educate me on different languages. So when the investors come, I can be this Cypriot that goes in this company and essentially run a big business, run a big department. So both hard skills and soft skills are really important. But of course, we need to be ready as a country. What we've seen in Ireland with Brexit, a lot of companies go in Ireland. They have a lot of foreign talent. And as a consequence, Irish people have to deal with very high rent and costs that they can't afford by being employed somewhere else. So we need to be ready for that as a country, do it organically. And with the pandemic, like you said, most of us are remote. There are good opportunities for us for remote work abroad as well, but why not bring those headquarters into this country and employ people from the island as well?
You actually mentioned a good point. I was gonna touch on this later on, but I'm gonna mention it now, and I would really like the opinions across the panel about education. So in Cyprus, we are in scarcity of tech talent. It's very hard to find developers, data scientists, and we also suffer from a global problem of the underrepresentation of women in tech. And that is not something that can also just be solved by corporate quotas on the matter. It roots back to the education, building a bigger pool of women engineers. So I would really like to hear out your opinions on this matter, on the education part. How can we have more engineers in Cyprus? How can we have more tech talent to cater these companies? And how can we address the problem of underrepresentation of women in tech? Who wants to go first? Please.
Yes. Actually, it's very interesting. I was reading the other day some statistics from Eurostat that show that while in the European Union, you have about 25% of students going to STEM studies and around 8 or 9% going to information communication technology. In Cyprus, that's about half the percentage, so 15%. And we have 40% of students that go into economics, business, and law. So in a way, this is a reflection of the current business model of Cyprus, the number of people that go into these areas. So it's a little bit a chicken and egg
Problem.
problem.
Yeah.
So we need to push more people into STEM so that then we can have, we can promote this ecosystem in Cyprus. And definitely we need a shift of the education system where it's actually aligned with the future of the labor market. So we see many countries that are successful, like Ireland or the Nordic countries. Estonia is the example that we are always using, where the education system, there is a strategy which aligns education curricula with the labor market needs of the future. In a way, in Cyprus, people going to university with a more short-term goal of getting a job in 4 years in the service industry. So we need to take example of these other countries where they're focusing firstly on starting to develop programming skills and these important data skills from an age as early as 7, and also to shift the curricula to applied science, because this is what will attract more people into STEM subjects, working on applied science and seeing the application. In terms of women in tech, because this is something I feel very strongly about, that there is a problem. We need from within the education system, the family, and society at large to start breaking stereotypes. We have a lot of stereotypes in Cyprus also, and we have a lack of promoting female role models in technology. Many studies show how important this is for young girls to have female role models that work in these areas. And we now have many women working in tech that can provide these role models, like Maria, for example, and the rest of the Malloc crew. But a last thing I want to say is that a very big factor is also the factor of maternity and childcare. Mm-hmm. And I was telling you earlier, a recent Fortune survey showed that 85% of women that leave tech jobs leave because of problems with maternity leaves and with childcare. So it's very important that there are policies in place here in Cyprus within organizations and at the government level that give the right flexibility and parental leave, not maternity leave, parental leave, so that women can go into technology and also stay in technology.
Thank you for that. Mr. Kokkinos, would you like to comment on that policy? Because I remember in the past you mentioned also about an effort from the government about reskilling and upskilling the public.
Yeah, first of all, I echo Christina's views. I think that the challenge we're confronted with as a society as well as an economy is not just education. I think it's a talent issue rather than education. It's not education in the narrow context of Ministry of Education and curricula. It starts from the younger age of 10, 12, 14. The family, the society does not encourage and does not prompt the young students to identify their potential in STEM, even if their potential is not towards engineering and sciences and mathematics, and they are more humanistic or human-centric studies. Again, digital can be built within the humanistic studies. So I think that what we are missing in Cyprus are two things. One is the orientation should start from the age of 10, 12, 14. By the time they go on to the university, the students should take an informed decision what is the route to follow, but also at the same time be ready and agile to change. It's not a bad thing to change and have a multidiscipline profile after 5 years of university or whatever. The other challenge we have is the soft skills, entrepreneurship, critical thinking, complex problem solving, communication, leadership. These are the most challenging issues that we are confronted with as a society. And again, it starts from the education system, but also it has to do with the family and the society, how we grow up our kids. We don't challenge them to question. We don't promote critical thinking on their everyday way of living. And allow me to say that we also have a digital gap. Sometimes we need to witness where the parents or the educators are digitally unfit to understand the words and the patterns of thinking and behaving and how information and data is being processed or absorbed for creating knowledge by the youngsters. So you see a confrontation between two different worlds. The world of the digital immigrants. I am a digital immigrant because I immigrated into the digital world, but our kids are digital natives. So there is a huge gap. And if you do not realize this and find a way to make a bridge between the two worlds, then this problem of talent and preparing the workforce of the future for Cyprus will remain a big obstacle in an for our accelerated way forward. I don't want to take more of your time on that, but this is a big topic.
Yes, and may I echo what you said about leadership, critical thinking. A recent study by EY called EY Megatrends actually showcased as AI takes over and we transition deeper into a digital world, these skills, critical thinking, creativity, leadership, and all of that are going to be the most important skills to have. So emphasis on soft skills is definitely something we should have.
In 35 years of my career, what I was looking for when I was hiring someone was primarily their soft skills rather than their hard skills. Because the hard skill is just a university degree. If you have a good degree from a good university, then it's a pass. But then what after that? So you need to understand that I need someone who can face the customer, can perform under pressure, can take the lead in a proactive way to prevent the problem, or if the problem occurs, to handle the problem. All this kind of thing, all this kind of skills, these soft skills, are not evident in our way of growing up our kids, not just on our education system, in the way we grow up our kids. And in a digital world, these kind of soft skills are more important than ever. Because of the digital is imposing an accelerated way of progress, and then the soft skills need to be injected into the system.
On this point, and before I move on to the infrastructure topic and how ready we are to adopt this, where I would love to your opinion, Mr. Onoufriou, I would like to touch on another thing that has also affected the culture and the mentality of the young Cypriots, the rise of entrepreneurship in Cyprus. 10 years ago, we barely had a startup ecosystem. Nowadays, we are proud to say that we had startup exits from global companies like Delivery Hero acquiring Foodie. We had the first Cypriot company entering Y Combinator, Malloc, by Maria and her co-founders. We have Cypriot founders abroad who found companies like Truva, Plum, Avocado, Terra, and so forth that raised tens of millions in funding. So we are on a better path than what we used to be in terms of entrepreneurship. And we are aspired not to become another Silicon Valley, but to go somewhere closer like Estonia that you mentioned before, or the Athens ecosystem. So Maria, as a founder who joined Y Combinator as well, I would really like to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Michalis. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Terzi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Malloc. Malloc is an AI-driven privacy and data security startup. We have a mobile app that monitors and prevents anyone from recording or transmitting data without you knowing. We sell this app to individuals, enterprises, and governments who care about their privacy. Malloc was created after receiving funding from the Cyprus Research and Innovation Foundation in collaboration with the Kyriacos Center of Excellence at the University of Cyprus. We have joined the Idea Incubator and won the Cyprus Entrepreneurship Competition in 2020. And in June, we have joined Y Combinator. We incorporated in the US. We became an American company. We attracted close to $2 million in investment. Our headquarters are in Nicosia, and we operate Malloc through its Cypriot subsidiary. So, as a Cypriot startup, you face a lot of challenges, and I will focus on the two I consider as more important and instrumental to the growth of our startup. In the startup world, speed is everything. By operating in Cyprus, we have an unfair disadvantage. Everything moves slower. It took us 2 days to incorporate and be fully registered as an employer in the US, 2 weeks to raise funding without even being there, without having a US citizenship, and 1 month to convince the Cyprus bank to accept the investment from our US company. The money that Y Combinator and other prominent and accredited US investors can be invested into our company. When I was explaining to the bank officer the details of the SAFE agreements and how funds are structured into partnerships, I felt like I had to prove that I'm not a criminal. Registering and operating a startup in Cyprus shall not follow the rules and the procedures of the standard companies, because simply the rules of the startup world are different. In the US, they know how to work. They have achieved to minimize anything that causes delays, anything that creates speed friction. The second challenge is seed funding, funding for early stage startups. At Malloc, we had the great opportunity to receive pre-seed funding from the Research Innovation Foundation, so we can start building product, and we joined the Idea Incubator to gain additional initial support. And there are numerous incubators that can help the launching of new startups in Cyprus. The challenge is making the next step. We had to go abroad, leave Cyprus to attract early stage funding that will allow us to be competent in the startup game. European VCs and angel investors are not willing to negotiate their terms. They don't understand how startups operate. They want power into startups at a level that can kill them. And bigger funds in Cyprus and in Europe are not interested in investing in early stage startup, and they only focus on lower risk Series A and Series B. So the option of a startup that has some traction and some potential is to either go abroad or bootstrap to survive and apply for European fundings. However, bootstrapping cannot lead the startup to the exponential growth you are looking for. In Europe, we educate people, we provide them with the means to begin, and then the US comes and picks them up and takes them to scale. To have an attractive startup ecosystem where Cypriot startups can grow, we need to first speed up the processes, minimize bureaucracy in our country. And on a European level, we need to provide investors with incentives to support our startups and keep them to Europe.
Maria, thank you so much for sharing this pain point, because it gives us a glimpse of reality. Certainly, we have come a long way in our startup ecosystem, but certainly there's a long, long way to go. And while you were saying this, I echoed registering a company for a startup in Delaware in 2017, and within a day, we had incorporations and a Silicon Valley bank account. So there are certainly certain processes that need to be sped up and things to be done differently now that we have startup talent. I mean, you have 200,000 users in a few months to support such thriving startups, which actually connects to my next and final topic, which is the level of readiness we have in Cyprus in terms of not just the processes, but also everything, the infrastructure, internet speed, cybersecurity, and all of that, and the talent again. How ready are we to accommodate this technological change that is happening in our country? And I would like to start the answer to this with Mr. Onoufriou.
Thank you. Can I just go back?
Sure.
Because everything will lead to the same point.
Yes.
Starting from what Mr. Kokkinos said, definitely we had things happen, and if technology was not there, we would have collapsed during COVID. I mean, that is ESE and all the small apps that facilitated our vaccination, helped us a lot. On the other hand, we are on the fourth industrial revolution, as they call it. We missed the third. And the way we are moving, the other people will reach the fifth, and we'll still be trying to figure out the fourth. So The plan is there since 2012. Another plan was issued 1923, which is it's very good. From the side of the ministry, they have all the urge and the power to do things, and we're not moving. I think what Maria said was another generation from mine, rounds up how we work and where we live. We talk about headquartering, which is fine, it's good. If you take Tech Island, which I have personal view because as Odyssey we belong to it, there are a lot of companies that have their headquarters here in Cyprus, and many more want to come. We need to build a system which facilitates these people, makes it easy for them to come, makes it easy for them to bring talent in a way that will help our own local talent develop and raise the bar. We need to do it in a way that we don't make news for all the wrong reasons. And that is something that I don't understand why don't we do it. We have the power, we have the will, we have the education, it's not happening. The other thing is, a short story, we went with my partner, Lefteris Antoniadis, a few years ago, not many years ago, to the US to do a short road trip for funding, just to test the waters. Everybody said we have a good product, the money was there, they were willing to talk to us. The only thing that came time and time again, you need to move the headquarters of the company out of Cyprus, either European country or the US. This, we need to clean our name. Much of it is an exaggeration, and we need to fix it. It's a very important thing when we go out and ask for people to invest in our country. The other thing is startups. Do we really have a startup ecosystem now? An ecosystem is where people go to and they help them to do things. The way my generation sees startup now is every startup I know has done it on their own will and how people, that the contributors of that particular startup went out and looked for funding.
Yes.
That is not an ecosystem. That is personal and whatever initiative. We need to build, we have the components, we need to put them together and create a system where these kids, these new young people, which part of it is all this event that we are taking part of, they need to be able to go to, be assessed, and quickly have a turnaround. Going back to your question, whether we have the infrastructure, the answer is yes, bring it on. Will we have difficulties? Definitely. Can we overcome these difficulties? 100 times yes. We have good people. We build good people in Cyprus. We can bring talent from abroad, provided we do all that we need to do as a policy and as a legislation. And we definitely will be able to support everything that comes our way. We are, as a society, the only thing that's holding us back, nothing else. The else we have it. Education we have, people we have, infrastructure we have and we build. All we have to do is work together and it will happen. And we're not doing that.
Absolutely. And may I add to this that we need to start focusing more in various competitive advantages and areas that we should disrupt in Cyprus. So whether it's shipping, and some work is being done there, whether it's agriculture, there's big work with agri-tech overseas right now, especially in Holland, and different sectors we should look into in capitalizing, using not just the technologies, but also the process and mindset that can transform our society.
Can I add something last?
Of course.
A few weeks ago, we issued as a country the Vision 2035.
Yes.
That is an excellent starting point of whatever we want to do. If we follow that, everything else will fall into place. We just need to, the stakeholders need to convince us, the rest of the citizens, embrace it, and let's go for the change. That vision includes everything. Everything you discussed here, the previous and the next sessions are included in that vision. So if the stakeholders push it forward, we're there.
Thank you for that. So we have about 3 minutes. If I could have the closing remarks from the rest of the panel for about 30 seconds so we can be on time, starting with Dr. Orphanidou.
Thank you. Yes, so I think that what Mr. Onoufriou is, I completely agree with him, and I like when he says we need to work together, because I think this is what is the recipe for success when we look at other countries that have succeeded in technologically advancing. And it is the coming together of government and the private sector in order to have joint initiatives and in order to have a spillage of best practices, especially, you know, when you work with organizations in Cyprus that have a global standing and access to also global knowledge. So I think the way forward has to bring together all the different stakeholders. We need to work together. And we need to also, very importantly, build, as the new technologies come in, build a good communication plan in order to build the trust of people. We have seen, you know, during the COVID pandemic that trust was a big issue. And this is also a challenge when the new technologies are coming in, like AI and automation. So, yeah, I spoke too much.
No, it's fine. Dr. Terzi?
Sorry. Yeah, before closing, I feel that I need to make some remarks on the previous question regarding to the technical talent. My opinion is that we have great technical talent in Cyprus. I agree with Christina that the material and the curriculum may be outdated and we need to adjust it to better address the needs of the workforce. But also the companies need to make themselves attractive. They need to work on new exciting products and they need to invest in their people. They need to continue training their people while they have them in the company. So if the company doesn't act, then both the company will stay behind, but also the personnel will be outdated when leaving the company. For the underrepresented women in tech, we would like to be role models, me, Artemis, and Elisa, through the work that they're doing in Malloc. And actually, I'm overly inspired by what Melanie Perkins has done with Canva. That it has received a $50 billion valuation. There needs to be a culture shift, and we need to break stereotypes on many levels, but also we need to insist on zero tolerance of sexism or bullying in the workspaces and in the universities. Such behavior should not be accepted, and for that, we will need to have public policies to ensure that the employers are doing the right thing. We need to set goals for the demographics and hiring and pay retention. And we need to reward those who meet the goals and hold those who don't accountable. For the ecosystem, we as startups are doing our part, are doing our best in order to grow, but the state also needs to do their part and make our operation in Cyprus easier.
Thank you. Mrs. Loucaidou and then Mr. Kokkinos.
I'll be quick. I think we need to focus. What do we want to achieve? Where do we want Cyprus to get to? What digital hub are we becoming? In what? And after we focus, let's use each other and our connections. There are as many Cypriots outside of Cyprus as in Cyprus, so I'm sure we'll have a lot of connections to bring investors, to bring talent. And I'm not a developer, actually. I'm a connector manager. This is what I call myself. I tell stories of from developers to the business and the other way around. So let's use each other to get where the government or the society wants us to get to.
Mr. Kokkinos?
I want to conclude this session with a very positive tone. Look back where we have been 10 years, where a startup was not even on our dictionary.
Yes.
Research and Innovation Foundation gave you the opportunity. Yes, we have to do more. Yes, we know what we have to do, and we have to do it. So it's just a matter of execution. It's not a matter of strategy. It's just a matter of execution. It's not a matter of money anymore. Through the Resilience and Recovery Fund, just for the digital, We have in the pipeline for the next 4 years more than 380 million euros to be invested in projects just for the government. It is scary, because honestly, we need the way to invest this money properly. So we do have a game plan. Yes, we know what we have to do. It's just a matter of just do it.
And on this note, I would like to thank you all for joining me in this very interesting discussion today, and thank you all for listening. And that concludes our panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.